Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Wes.
Yay, Wes is back.
Yeah.
Continues to be here.
It's
And
almost
I'm
like
never
he
leaving.
never left.
It was really hard to come get you to come do this one.
I know.
You're really dragging your
I
feet.
hate this game.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, yeah.
Can't remember you can't expect me to remember things I said 2 whole days ago.
Well, and you can't expect us to actually tell you when you're going to be on the show.
Yeah.
You just have
Yeah,
to.
right.
We'll
I
tell
have to
you that, hey,
intuit it.
you're going to be on this episode. You just need to know when this episode is.
Yeah.
You just have to instinctually feel like they're talking about Arkham Horror.
Yeah.
That's actually what happened. I had an inkling somewhere in the crazy parts of my brain that I might be needed here.
It was like
and here I
Spidey
was.
senses, but only really useful once.
No, if you come 2 years later, you'll be like, they're talking about the look back of it. So.
Right on. Well, this is Friday. It's a in-depth review episode, and as we've already said, it's Arkham Horror.
Third edition.
So it's
I think
third
we haven't-
edition.
I think we haven't already said that yet for this episode.
Well, I did mention Arkham Horror, like that your Spidey senses went off about, they're talking about Arkham Horror. But anyway, and yes, Zach, you're correct. It is Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, very specifically. Arkham Horror 3rd Edition was released in 2018 from designer Richard Lanius, Nikki Valens, and Kevin Wilson. Artist is Anders Finier, and published by Fantasy Flight Games. It plays 1 to 6 players and takes 120 to 180 minutes. Do you have a rules breakdown for us?
Yes, I do. In Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, you and your compatriots are trying to stop great old ones from invading the world. On your turn, you can do 2 actions, like moving, attacking, or evading monsters, focusing skills, and trading with other investigators. Monsters around Arkham will then activate, which can get them to move towards and attack investigators, patrol around the board, or just sit around and vomit doom onto the board. Then any players not engaged with a monster can have an encounter. Encounter will give you a chance to gain spells, items, allies, or clues. Clues can be researched on your turn to help advance the plot. Finally, players will draw from a mythos bag, adding doom, monsters, and more clues to the board. Each scenario has a branching storyline, which will advance whenever specific criteria is met. If you can make it through and actually defeat or shut down the Great Old One's plan, congrats, you win. Otherwise, it doesn't matter because everything and everyone's dead or insane or both.
Correct.
Yes.
Or the world got eaten.
I mean, yes.
Or-
Hence
or
everyone
unmade.
dead. Or, yeah,
Everyone being insane. All of those things still apply.
Yeah.
Zach was not wrong.
never.
Anyhow, with that out of the way, let's get into some initial thoughts here. And Wes, you're the guest. So
That's me.
Let's start with you. What were your initial thoughts going into Arkham Horror 3rd Edition?
So I did not pay attention to any of the news coming out of Gen Con until we got to Gen Con. I was like, hey, what's new and interesting, guys? And somebody said that there was Arkham Horror 3rd Edition at Fantasy Flight, and I wanted to go to there.
Did you go to there?
I did. I
Okay.
think I demoed it twice.
Okay.
Right on. Zach, what about you? What was your initial thoughts going into
My
3rd
initial
edition?
thoughts, was I remember hearing about it, but I'd never played Arkham Horror 2nd Edition. I'd only played Eldritch, and that was already supposed to be a streamlined version. But I was interested, and then at Gen Con, I saw that like the demos were pretty busy on it the entire time, and I get the chance to see, although they didn't have the puzzle pieces for the board.
They were all pre-printed
It was
mats.
pre-printed mats. But I was like, ooh, I do want to try this out. So I was definitely interested in trying to demo it out. We did a little bit of it, got a taste of it, and I was like, ooh, I'm definitely looking forward to actually giving the main game a go. So much so that when it came out, I went to go buy it, but I was gonna buy it. I was talking about it on Wednesday to go buy it Thursday, and
Because it was coming out that morning.
yeah, it's
I
coming out
guess.
that morning, and our local place had the deluxe rulebook. You basically got it for $5 more if you bought the game, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go get this, and then Wes was like, just appeared out of nowhere. You buying Arkham Horror?
Hey, you got to do that, Arkham Horror.
I heard you had some Arkham Horror.
Yeah, so you asked if I could buy you a copy too.
Yep.
And then Jeff was like, might as well.
Also, yes.
Yeah, get a 3-fer. So I immediately went to the store and I was like, 3 copies of Arkham Horror and the rule books, please. And they only had 5 of the rule books like that they got shipped, and so immediately most of them are already gone.
Yep.
Just ruined a bunch of other random people's days.
Yeah.
They didn't get there first.
Yeah.
Correct.
Suckers.
I mean, I was gonna get there like early afternoon until two other people wanted me to buy a copy, and I was like, all right, I might as well get there right when they open.
Right on. Jeff, what about you? What were your initial thoughts?
I had seen it at the surprise announcement of Gen Con, and I was very excited for it. I loved Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, which is a weird edition name, technically, in name only, really, because it is extremely different from that first one.
Yeah.
This one's pretty extremely different from 2nd edition. Even.
That's, very, very true. And I was real excited about it. And then I realized, well, I guess they're not doing any more Eldritch Horror, are they? And Arkham Horror is out. It's here. I demoed it twice.
Right on.
Yeah.
So for me, initially, when you guys all came back from Gen Con and were like, holy shit, they announced Arkham Horror, I was like, yawn. I had already, by that point, thoroughly been over Eldritch. I'd never actually played Arkham, but kind of like Zach said, Eldritch was supposed to be a streamlined Arkham. And so then I was like, I didn't like Eldritch. That was a streamlined Arkham. I don't think I'll like new Arkham that's streamlined Arkham anymore. But then you guys got your copies and you started playing it, and like, I saw like a game night or something, you were playing it, and the way they did the boards looked different, and it seemed like it might be different enough, like they maybe did streamline enough that it would be better. You guys talked about, some of the things we'll get into later with some of the changes that they made to like curses and blessings and like how certain mechanics function. Like they're still the same mechanic, but they tweaked them. And so then I was like, okay, I could possibly get into this. So I started from a very meh perspective going in, but then by the time I actually got around to playing, I was starting to actually kind of, have a little bit of hope. So
I did want to clarify one thing too, just as up front. Even though it says on there that Richard Lanius and Kevin Wilson like designed it, this one was a Nikki Valens. Like she designed this one, and they were inspired, and like I'm sure
they get credit kind of like an author getting credit for the book that a movie's based off
exactly.
of, even though the author might not have actually been involved in making the movie.
Yes, yeah.
It's just taking some of the ideas that came from that and then changing them. So
yeah,
yes, good addendum. Let's move on then into some components. So this is one of the areas where they made some definite changes from the initial editions.
Yep, it's not a static board anymore. It is
modular.
Modular, that's the word I was looking for.
Yep. So you're going to be playing, depending on the scenario, there's 8 double-sided location boards.
There's 8 different.
5.
Well, there's 5. There's 5.
Well, you play with 5
but
boards
there's
in a
8
game.
different locations.
But there's
right.
Okay.
5 different boards, which is 10 sides, but some of them are duplicates. So there's
two of them
options.
Yes. Yeah, there's 8 options to play with. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's all determined by the scenario.
Yep.
You're not going to be like, we'll play this way. We're just going to do one solid line, guys. It'll be fine.
That would go poorly.
Yes.
I'm going to teleport.
It's weird how we have just this line of 5 monsters.
But yeah, so the scenario card will tell you the exact layout of them, but they're almost always going to be like the 3 and then the 2 and then various
connections between them.
Some games, one on the corner might be only connected to one tile. Other times, most of them might be connected by 2, maybe 3. That's all determined by the exact scenario.
Yeah.
They are pretty good cardboard quality, I'd say. They're like puzzle pieces, the little city
Streets.
and the street connections that like connect together.
Yeah, for the most part. There are a couple that you sort of have to jam in there a little bit, and like we've already seen a little bit of fraying.
Yeah, my copy's definitely got a bit of fraying. Since they're punched cardboard, there's definitely a front side and a back side, and if you're trying to fit a front side into a back side, the puzzle piece doesn't want to quite fit.
Yeah.
So maybe fiddle with it a bit.
Yep. It also uses white lines to denote different spaces, which the white lines in the actual neighborhood and then the ones on the street spaces are different widths, and it's a little weird.
Because like every city space is divided into 3 neighborhoods.
Yep.
And so
each neighborhood is divided into 3 spaces.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Because it's all one city,
It's
man.
all one city. But
look, if you give us a chance to be pedantic, we're going to be pedantic.
Did you not read the lore in the book?
Oh dear.
Do you not have the deluxe edition rulebook?
Indeed, I do not.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, get out.
This is literally a deluxe rule edition podcast.
Yeah. We all own the game.
Yeah, we
I
all.
wish this was like Charterstone where there were spoilers that I cared about. So when you tell me to get out, I could have just been like, all right, well, have fun. I'm gonna go hang out with Megan and the dog. But yeah, like you said, Zach, those lines that divide the locations in each neighborhood are thinner, and then they are noticeably thicker on the street tiles. And the other thing that bothers me about the street tiles is overall, I think the art on the tiles is all really good.
Yeah.
It's got good shading and like makes you feel like it's this dark city where mysterious shit can be happening. Except the street tiles don't in any way, shape, or form even fucking remotely pretend to line up to the actual neighborhood tiles.
Yeah.
Like they're at completely different angles and view. It's like playing the old school Resident Evil and you cross a camera line and the camera shifts so dramatically that like, what the fuck?
Yeah. No, it's definitely it reminds me a bit like Inish in that regard, where you have like the different spots
Yeah.
and they're just like, oh, these you can't get these to match in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Also,
They definitely don't line up.
yes, exactly.
Which I can appreciate. It would have been hard to do because those neighborhood tiles are what, like 6-sided? Or are they 8?
Yeah, 6-sided.
6-sided.
So it would be hard to have each tile have like 6 paths running off to the edges that then line up with the streets.
Yeah.
But I feel like they could have done something so that at least in most situations
Yeah.
it would work. Like I feel like I don't know, what they have planned for future expansions, but with the scenarios they have, it's like, okay, this one's used in these scenarios and it almost always has a connection coming out over here. We could make the art connect that off to a bridge or a
they
street.
could have done
Yeah.
a bit more work. But then also the perspective would like the neighborhoods feel like they have different perspectives on how you're looking at it. So it's
The scale is slightly different. too,
Exactly,
and so,
yeah.
I
vanishing
wish
points, all those things.
I wish there had been just a hair bit more connectivity from an art.
Yeah, no, I
standpoint.
could agree.
No,
with
I
that.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if that's the biggest complaint that we have,
For components. That's the biggest
Well,
complaint
no,
that
I would
have.
say for me the biggest complaint I have for components is that the different neighborhoods they all have a corresponding neighborhood deck. That 2 of them are green. One's like a lighter green, another one's a slightly darker green.
The Merchant District and the
Miskatonic. Then there's one that's a
Rivertown and North Side.
Yeah.
Dark purple and light purple.
yeah, and then
and then there's 2 blue ones,
there's two-
South Side and
Yeah.
Downtown.
Well,
Downtown.
and especially the green ones.
yeah.
Are calling them a lighter and a darker green. Like
I find those 2 are the easiest to keep apart. The 2 reds are so close.
I would say the reds are so close.
I don't think I've played one with both reds.
Oh, okay.
And typically you don't. There's only one map that has both greens on it, so you typically don't have both greens.
Yeah.
but you
Okay.
very often have both purples or both blues.
Yeah, it's not. They could have done a better job choosing. Like
There's more than 4 colors.
there is at least 16 colors.
Actually, it's three of the red ones. There's 2 lighter,
There's-
darker reds, and then one that's purple. That's
Yes,
almost so.
exactly.
Between the 3 of them, there's 2 pairs that are real close.
Yeah.
They were trying to keep very close to the colors that second edition had, I think is what
Oh,
it was.
okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
These are all the same colors that those various neighborhoods had in
I
second
feel like
Why?
I feel
they
like
changed enough, changed the colors.
Yeah.
Like make them more discernible.
Well,
at a
you'll have to
glance.
ask Nikki Valance.
I'll get right on that. I'm sure she'll respond.
dear Nikki.
Otherwise, like the card qualities, fine. Like
Yep.
pretty much Fantasy Flight quality. You
Yeah.
know, like they definitely aren't known for skimping.
No.
Their cards are always pretty good.
They're not known for skipping on that.
No,
No.
they're inserts.
No, I mean the inserts do what they're supposed to, and that's literally bring it to you.
Yeah.
And
But-
then you
Good luck
throw it
after
away and
that.
put everything else
Exactly,
in nice plastic
yeah.
containers.
Yes.
Whole bunch of different little cardboard punch outs and pieces.
Yeah,
All the same.
Yeah, all the same.
It's a new style than they've used in the past, I think.
Uh,
Eldritch didn't use these
LCG
specific
uses
ones.
some of those same
L-
symbols.
LCG and Mansion's second edition use some of those too. So
Yeah, because for me personally, I don't have nearly as extensive experience with Arkham and Eldritch specifically as you guys.
yeah,
But like the health and sanity tokens
Uh-huh.
and the money tokens were all very familiar to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Probably from Mansions or
Yep.
maybe Eldritch.
The health and sanity, I think, are the same even from Eldritch, but like the Doom and the clues and
That's
the money. No, money's not the same as an LCG, but the Doom and the clues are the same as.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Item decks are different.
Yes.
Made design change there, I guess.
They did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a design change.
Because it used to be common. It used to be common items and unique items.
Yep.
Now unique items are something totally different, and everything that used to be like a unique item is now just a curio.
Yeah.
Which is a new thing.
Because the item deck has curio items and common items.
Yeah.
And
But-
some items are both.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's more of a trench purchase than what it used to be,
Yep.
Yeah.
which is nice.
Which
So
is
you'll get
similar
a
to
thing that says
Eldritch.
like choose a curio, and you can choose any of the curios that are showing, or you can draw until you draw the first curio.
They use a lot of keywords in this game, which is
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
So like they'll say from the display, which is like the thing in front. That means you can only get it from there. Otherwise, if it's just a gain one, well, this is all rule shit. So
We'll come back.
yeah.
One thing I don't like are the Ancient One scenario sheets and the investigator sheets. They seem much cheaper than previous versions that I've played.
Eldritch, they're the same
Yeah, they're the
quality
same
as
as
Eldritch.
Well, then Eldritch suck more than the second edition ones. They suck more compared to the second edition than what I was used to.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
But no, yeah. When I saw those, I was like, this is the same size they have.
For something that gets used a lot in front of people, would have liked a little heavier.
I mean, but
cardstock
you
on there.
don't. I don't know. You don't use them for anything other than a display.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
sit
it
off
just
to the
sits there,
side.
and I put my tokens on it.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I know I played your copy, Wes, the one time at Paul's, but whenever I think about this particular part of it, I can only think of Zach's with his super cushy like sunglass bag you used for the
Yeah.
cup. Did it come with a bag?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay. So you're supposed to draw those tokens from,
I mean, you can.
The
cup.
rules specify a cup. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a cup,
but so they
it's-
don't give you anything to actually.
No,
draw
but
them
you could.
from.
I mean, realistically, you could just throw it in the box and just not look and grab.
Yeah.
But
For LCG, we draw out of a clear plastic Tupperware. I mean, as long as you're just looking to the side, it doesn't matter.
exactly. One other thing, the dice that it comes with, standard, really shitty dice.
It's terrible.
6.
Immediately replaced
Yeah.
5. I think.
5.
No, it should be 6.
Is it 6? Okay.
Well, this components picture shows 6.
Okay. All right. Well, I immediately got rid of them, just like I'm sure you did.
Didn't even have them in your hand long enough to count.
Yeah.
I still have mine because I just took my massive bag of D6s
Uh-huh.
and added them into it,
That's
and then just bring that massive bag of D6s around. So when I play, I have like 50 dice of D6s, and then the bag is empty because the dice are on the table, and then we use the bag for the business
Gotcha.
bag.
Yeah. I bought, when I first got Eldritch Horror, I bought the Fantasy Flights Arkham Horror dice, 2 sets of each of them. So it's
10.
it's 30
30
in
dice.
total. But I just use those.
Yeah, and so you have like the 10 for the blessed, 10 for the regular, and 10 for cursed.
Exactly. Yeah.
That have the
They're super
success
nice.
symbol.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I that's right. I forgot you brought all your own dice in your own bag, because when I was playing your game, I kept to taunt fate or aid fate. I strategically choose like your biggest, then the next, then the next. So I'd roll like if I was rolling 6 dice, they were like in descending size. So I
Yeah.
rolled like one of each size or something, because
I
you
think
have
there's 4 or 5
a
sizes
ridiculous
in that
amount of
bag,
dice
yeah.
in that bag.
Like I
about
said,
that.
50 something
Yeah.
dice.
But yeah, in this game, like Eldritch and those other ones, you're gonna roll. There'll be a lot of times where you'll roll more than the 6 dice that it gives you. So
It's very easy, and some of the characters, their starting stuff gives you 7 dice. And you're like,
yeah, yeah. So it's always annoying when they decide to skimp on those dice. So
Which they do
Yes.
at every opportunity.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Mansion only has 5. Eldritch only had 5
But
or 6.
They had,
So
at least they were custom
Yes.
Mansions dice.
yes,
One thing we haven't talked about, the little tray build thing that you put the cards in.
oh yes,
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah.
yeah. That was new.
Yes.
Because it's basically you put the neighborhood deck, which is specific to each scenario, which has a thing on the bottom that's super easy to figure out. It's where you get clues and stuff like that. But the actual holder has a
Deck holder. I
deck
guess?
holder
Yeah.
has symbols because you draw in specific places if you're doing a clue, a gate burst, or doom. And so the fact that it's labeled on there where you grab from, and to grab from the back so you don't see it with doom, I think they did a great job with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chad from Of Dice and Men was joking in our Slack channel about how he had apparently sent a tweet out
Oh yes,
about how he was really happy at how they had incorporated the physical puzzles from Mansions of Madness.
Yeah.
and like had showed a picture of him putting that together like all wrong.
Yeah.
And then like something about like putting the city and other tiles together all wrong.
yeah,
And got a positive response out of Nikki.
yes.
So I think that's basically it for components. There's not
Yeah.
a whole lot else.
And then art is this, like we were saying, standard art. So
There is
I know
new
there's some
Arkham Files art. in
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
there's 2 new characters too.
Yeah.
And
One of them
most
was
of them
new
look
for LCG.
yeah.
So only one new to
Right.
Arkham Files.
Most of them look really good. I know Adrian has a problem with one in particular.
Oh man, that jazz singer girl. There's something about the perspective is so
I mean,
wrong
it's
on
the
that one.
same picture they've been using for her for 10 years.
Well, I hardly play any of the other ones, so I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
But having been playing this recently and seeing it every time I'm choosing a character, I even tried playing as her, and not only that. Well, I'll
just
talk about that gameplay.
It just made him hate the character more because he's just looking at her, this motherfucker.
But yeah, the art's good.
Yep. It's
like,
standard.
fantastic.
I think it's just
yeah.
standard quality.
Consistent.
Consistent.
Yes.
Except the board.
except the board.
Yeah.
And the one wonky character.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get over to some rules and rules explanation. So this is the 3rd edition of Arkham Horror, and really Eldritch kind of almost slips in there as like so it's like the
2.5.
4th. You know,
Really,
that's
that's a-
2.5.
And then the card was 2.9
Yeah.
or 3.
I
but
think it was
yeah.
that was enough of a different thing.
but they took a decent amount from that to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is, they've really had multiple iterations of this system to streamline it and
Mhm.
really kind of nail down what they want out of an experience. And I think that really shows. I felt like when I learned it, you had all 3, I think. Jeff had not played yet. And Jeff wasn't there when I learned. But I learned in one of like the worst learning environment
Uh-huh.
situations you could, where Zach, Paul, and Andrew the Hater were playing one game.
Oh, that's
and,
right.
And myself, Wes, and Mike Jones
Mike Jones.
were playing directly adjacent to them on the same table in Paul's kitchen.
Yep.
And so, like, I got a little bit of Zach's, like, intro and teach to Andrew, who hadn't played it yet.
Yep.
And then when Wes and Mike Jones both got there, I got the full teach there. But there wasn't anything. It's familiar enough if you're at all
Mhm.
familiar with Eldritch or Arkham. Most of the things, or even the LCG, most of the key phrases you're going to need to know, mechanics you're going to need to know, those are all present. So
Yeah.
it makes teaching it to people who are at least familiar with that easy. I don't know how I'd be coming into it with no knowledge of any Arkham Files source
I
material.
feel like Andrew learned it well enough. I think he and Paul learned it easy enough too,
Yeah.
but it feels like, they've streamlined it, like you're saying, they've streamlined it down to what what they want the game to be. And so there's not that much extra fluff. And I feel like it's a lot easier to teach.
And Fantasy Flight does such a good job of rules references, learn
There-
to play.
yeah,
And
so-
so
We do have the deluxe edition, but it's just really the 2 books combined and then some other stuff at the
Art
end.
and things like
Yeah.
that.
But
short stories.
I felt the rule book was like one of the best they had ever done.
Oh yeah.
It was specific in all the right ways. Anytime we had a question, we were able to answer it in the book.
I've had some weird edge cases that I haven't been able to find answers for.
Uh-huh.
But this game does not have the grim rule like LCG does, where if you don't know, go for the thing that's bad for you. In this one, if you don't know or you have a choice, you can go for what's good for you.
Okay.
So that's always kind of been
Yeah.
which is one of my complaints with the game, but we'll get to that later.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else for rules.
I had gotten most of the game from the 2 little demo games I had played when
Mhm.
when Zach set everything up. We just started.
Yeah, I was like, "Do you want me to go?" And he's like, "No, I got it."
Yeah, I think I got this.
Yeah. There's a player a quick reference guide, a little player card that has all the actions you can do.
A decent one too.
Yeah, and then you flip it over and it just tells you what the actual phases are. There's a new phase in this where because monsters are a lot more present in this one than they were in like Eldritch, so they have an active role in the game. But it's everybody does their actions and you can do it in whatever order you want, just like in the other ones. Eldritch was
Eldritch, you had to go around the table.
So this one, it's nice. So you just be like, I'll do it, and then you do it, and whatever. And then the monsters move. If they can move, they will move, and then they'll engage with somebody, and then attack if they can, and then any exhausted monsters become readied. One little thing that people, if it takes a little while for them to realize, is that any monster that's ready in your space is going to engage with you unless it specifically says it doesn't.
The rules are pretty clear on that. They say if
Yes.
a readied monster is in your space for any reason,
Yep.
it engages with you.
Yeah. Which, yes, that's good. It some people felt it was confusing, but the rules are very clear on that. Just like when you're mixing clues into the neighborhood deck. What game was it that we had a hard time figuring out if...
Oh, it was that island survival game with Paul.
Oh, yeah. Some weird
Quest
game.
for El Dorado?
No,
No.
different one. It was we played it.
Plane crash.
Yeah, we played it at the Artisan Ales place. So it was before you got there. But that one was confusing on what we were supposed to do with the cards. And then we started playing this, and it specifically says grab the top 2 cards, shuffle it in, so it becomes one of the top 3 cards.
Yeah.
And so,
Ravine?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Right.
was it.
So in that one, it just says take shuffle the card into the top 3 of the deck. Well, that could mean take 2, add this to it. Now you have 3, or take 3, add that to it. And then we played that, and then like the next week played this, and we're like, oh, they're super clear about that.
Yeah.
You take 2, add this to it, and then shuffle.
Yes. Yeah. But then it's like it's really easy for setup too. It tells you all
It's
the
all on the one card.
yeah. All the scenario specific stuff is on there.
That's where it brings in most of the LCG stuff, I think, is setting up that story.
Yeah, so you have an archive. So instead of Eldritch or the other, where it's like you just have to do investigations, this one actually has
And second edition had literally none of that.
right. Yeah, it was just your goal was that
Yeah.
like you
Your
in both
setup was different.
yeah, in both those games, you know what you need to do to finish the game.
Mhm.
The specifics might be different, but you're like, we have to do these. This one, when you start, you don't know, and the archive gives you a story on what you're actually supposed to be doing. So it gives you hints on what you want. Like it usually will be like, flip this card over when you have 3 clues or 3 doom or whatever. And
Generally, they're all get rid of Doom, get
yes,
clues.
yeah,
Right.
And it's very clear on when you are supposed to add cards or subtract. Like the storyline itself, outside of one minor thing, was it was very clear on whenever you're supposed to progress.
Right.
So-
And what's great about it is because there's so many, it is branching in that regard. So if you get your 3 clues before you get your 3 doom, you go on a different path than if you got the 3 doom before you got the 3 clues. And so there's a couple of different outcomes for each scenario, which is great. They pulled that
That's
from
a lot
LCG.
of nice replayability,
Yes.
some would say.
Replayability.
Yeah, Arkham Second Edition, it was just like, this is the scenario, this
Yep.
is the scenario we have, there's nothing, it's never going to change.
Mhm.
Just
Yep.
depends on what cards you draw that make your story different.
Yeah,
Even in Eldritch, there was really only 3. You could either beat it before the old one came, beat it after the old one came, or lose.
yeah.
Similar to
Mhm.
Second Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Well, let's get over into some gameplay then.
All right, so we're going to start playing the game now.
Yep.
Correct. And we'll finish, and it'll still be, well, it might be in a long episode if we played a full game of it.
All right, and
Well,
we're back.
about
We
2
finished the game.
Yeah.
Depends
2 to 3
on-
hours.
Depends on how quickly the horrors kill you off.
To be fair, if we started playing now, we might end at about the same time we normally end recording.
True.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
True. But yeah, so gameplay for this is pretty straightforward.
You get 2 actions.
Cannot do the same thing twice.
Make them count.
Yeah.
Is this did Eldritch have only the same action once?
No.
You could do, yeah. So
You
I
could
think
do
this is
multiples.
I think this is the first one where it's been limited on that.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's LCG, you can do the same thing twice also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
so
that
you
was the
can-
biggest change for me from coming from
Mhm.
any of these games. It's
And
you can do,
it's
you can move-
brutal.
Yeah.
It is.
It,
Yeah.
it does. It makes it a lot harder.
Well, that's where you need like that cooperation comes through like monsters.
Yes.
You're like, I need someone to come help me. Like if you fuck up on a roll, you're like, all right, well, someone else needs to come take care of this because I can't do it.
Yeah.
Or somebody needs to go and clear off that doom because I
Mhm.
literally do not have enough movement to get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the base rules are real simple. You get 2 actions, and then there's the monster phase, and then there's the
Encounter phase.
encounter phase, and then there's the
Mythos
Doom
phase.
Traditional mythos phase.
Yep.
Yep. Which is
Uh,
now it's not a deck anymore. It is like we said, it's basically a cup or a bag, and that is the main way, if the only way. No, more or less. There's one other thing, but it's the main way you actually have like it changes for player count because
Yeah.
you only every player draws 2, and it's out of 14. So if you're playing with 6 players, you draw 12 a turn, which
Which is almost the whole bag.
is almost the whole bag. Whereas if you're playing with 2 players, it takes 4 turns in order for you to see that gate burst again.
Yeah.
At it, even if you so
Yeah, which means, especially like with even in a 4-player game, 4 players not as bad. You get multiple turns where like you might refill it at the end, and then you get a couple draws
Yeah.
before it goes. But if you're playing a 6-player game, the only turn for a while where you wouldn't refill the bag would be that first turn, where there'd still be 2.
Yeah.
But then you'd refill it in the second turn, and then you draw a bunch out, and then the third turn you'd draw a few, and then refill the bag. So you would be cycling that a lot more.
Which is nice because it scales well for the different players. Like each person gets 2 actions, and then they have 2 bad things happen. So theoretically, you should be using your 2 actions to undo the 2 bad things that happened.
Exactly.
Theoretically. But there's also some good things in there, so it allows you to have.
There's nothing. There are nothings, which are great in there.
Well, there's
And
clues.
clues.
I know.
But it also means that like some of the scenarios where every time that Doom token gets drawn, and there might be an event where like everybody who has Doom in their space takes sanity damage.
The
equal to
Reckoning?
Doom, the Reckonings. And so you're playing a 6-player game, if the Reckoning's happening every single turn, like people are going to go crazy real quick.
Yep. So it scales nice theoretically, but it actually gets real swingy.
Yes. Yeah, definitely 100%.
Like when I played a solo game and it was just like, oh, a bad thing happened. Well, I have all of my turn to deal with just that one bad thing.
Or it's, that one bad thing isn't the worst. I'll go deal with other things. Whereas you have 4 or 5 players, and you're like, it's just, it's like, oh, well, we had all 3 Doom come out, and now there's an anomaly because it all hit certain spaces. So now we have to go fucking deal with that. It can pile on you more with more players.
Yeah, right.
Or again, like especially with that 6-player example, which I haven't played at 6, so I can't, say that like, oh, it's super bad this way.
How many have you played at? Just so we can.
I've played at 3 and 4.
Okay.
That's
Jeff?
all I've played.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You played by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't sleeve it just to not use it.
Okay. That's true. Wes?
I played 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Gotcha. 2, 3, and 4 for me. So.
But the things like the gate burst. If you're playing again that 6-player game, in the second round, third round, fourth round, there's going to be a gate burst in each of those rounds.
And the important thing about the gate burst is it's pandemic. You draw from the front, shuffle it into the discard pile, and put the discard pile back onto the back. So now you're drawing Doom into a place that probably just had a gate burst, which throws the Doom onto the scenario card, which is bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are some ways to help with that, because if you're getting clues, then you're throwing those cards that you just got the clues into the discard pile, which helps. So it just means you need to be active a lot more in this game. You can't sort of build up.
Yeah, because you can't take a first turn to equip your stuff and go buy the stuff you want, because you can't actually just go buy the stuff you want anymore, but there's no turn to prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
outside of like, I'm going to focus and get $1.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I've seen used in a single game I've played.
I've used it.
Get $1?
Yeah.
I've done it.
Oh, not the get $1.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Okay.
And only once have I done it because I'm like, I have nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
Because I need to do this
and
one
you
thing.
Had something that was focused.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's a good point. Like, just because of the action economy, and like especially as you play with more players and the how rapidly bad things just. I mean, it's an Arkham game. Like
things go bad.
Yeah, any Lovecraftian game, things should be going bad constantly. But it makes it tricky because you have a tendency where it's like, oh man, I've taken a decent amount of health damage or sanity damage. I'm going to go over here to heal up. So I'm going to spend my move to get over there. Maybe I fight a monster on the way. Maybe I try and clear Doom or get a clue. But then you do that, and like you're not combating the bad things that are happening. So things can snowball if you don't stay on top of them.
Yeah, especially monsters. Monsters, like I said, they're a lot more. They have a bigger presence in this game, and you need like in Eldritch. If you had a monster like the mummy just hanging out in the pyramids, you're like,
I guess it's just going to be there.
It's just going to be there. This one, any monster that's just hanging around is fucking up everybody, either throwing Doom around or giving everybody horror. And then there are monsters that are actively pursuing people, and they are doing damage to you every turn.
So this is definitely going back to second edition.
Right.
Where that's what I'm familiar with monsters. When you play Eldritch, I'm like, oh, monsters, meh.
Well, I mean, so it makes sense in that one because it's entire cities. So you're like in Rome, and there's Biaki. It's like, okay, well, I'll just go 20 miles to the west, and then I won't really have to worry about them.
Yeah. And with Arkham, it has that smaller city scale.
Exactly,
where those monsters are jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
It did add in the new like in between spaces, like the streets, and
streets,
stuff like
yeah.
people in streets,
People in the streets, yes.
people in the streets.
Eldritch had the generic city and the
But-
generic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one had more of I get to sit in this little mini space and do shit
Oh,
next to it. You
yes.
have to go and get them.
Yeah, a lot of the lurker monsters,
Yeah.
they spawn at the street space closest to the
Yeah.
lead investigator
they're
or whatever,
people in the streets. Yes.
People in the streets.
That's what we're saying.
which is annoying because then you're stuck on that square.
Exactly.
No,
after
no,
you
it's
And
just-
fine.
because every time it happens, somebody goes, "People in the streets."
That's the best part.
That's the
about
best part about it.
Yeah,
But no, because then the streets are grab bags because each of the different locations, the neighborhood spaces.
Scenic or
Well, not just that, but like all like
In the actual neighborhoods,
the
it's
actual
like,
neighborhoods-
you know roughly
yeah.
what you're going to be testing or spending and
Yes.
what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's like, oh, if you want to go to Arkham Asylum, you can probably spend money to regain sanity. Obviously, not all the time because it's an Arkham game. It's always like 80% chance of that, 20% whatever the fuck else. But the streets is just a grab bag of literally, like I've seen anything from remove Doom to just you get to just move, just go a free
go
movement.
away,
Yeah,
get an ally.
yeah, get a
etc.
spell, get all that shit. So
Going back to like the specific locations and what bonuses you can get, they've done a much better job in this edition than second edition. In
yes.
most cards have to do with that. In second edition, it was just like that. It was like that 25% chance I'm actually getting what you could get in
Right.
that spot, or just whatever nightmare other thing that could
Mhm.
possibly happen.
yeah, well, and in Eldritch, even though they listed like you could go to Rome to improve will, you didn't know exactly how you were going to do it most times. Whereas here, it's like you go to this spot, you'll probably do strength and influence to gain money or get items.
Yeah.
Isn't it, like, so it tells you like, because there'll be times it's like, well, I don't need sanity, so I don't want to end up in Arkham Asylum because it'll just be a wasted turn.
Or I really need sanity, but I don't have any money,
Yeah,
so I'm not going to go waste a turn there to encounter it and then not be able to recover sanity.
yeah, exactly.
The focus stuff is new for all the tests, right?
So focus was added in Eldritch, but it wasn't like this.
Okay.
No.
It was, I don't remember how it was different, but I remember earning the like
Well,
a
so
bonus to your ability.
in Eldritch, you could improve things, and that let you roll more dice. But then the second or third expansion added focus tokens, which you could focus, and then you could spend them to re-roll.
Okay.
So this one combined the two, so you can just focus and improve something.
Yeah.
But then you can also use that to as a re-roll for a die.
Yeah.
And each character has their own focus limit, anywhere from 1 to like Dexter is as many spells as he has, although technically you can only improve each skill once unless you're the reporter who has the one skill. It's a
It lets you
fantasy
do-
flight game, so there's always going to be shit that's like, here's that one card that breaks that roll.
Yeah.
Right.
It makes him
Unlimited.
less
Yeah.
Still not worth it.
because he's always cursed.
Always cursed.
I did pretty well with him.
Yeah,
I,
we ended
I
up
have not
winning.
been brave enough to give him a shot yet.
You
don't-
just
you
you
need-
have to be okay with failing a lot in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
But every time you fail, you get a focus, and you can focus each twice.
Yep.
So you're just throwing a lot of die.
And it was nice because I was just basically like, all right, Jeff, you're that character. Here's those red dice. I'm just gonna keep them by you.
You get to use the red die.
Yeah.
Which leads us into another change: is how curses and bless work.
Which is much better,
Yeah.
easier.
friendlier.
Yeah.
This
It's
was
definitely
one of,
friendlier.
This was
yes.
one of the things where when I hadn't played it and I heard how they changed these, I was like, oh, maybe that will help. Because as anybody who listens to the show knows, dice fucking hate me. Like, dice and I don't get along. And that was one of the things that would piss me off to no end when I used to play Eldritch, is I would get cursed, and then I'd only be able to succeed on 6s, and then it was so fucking hard to ever get uncursed. Like, it just felt like once you got cursed, all right, you're fucked. Like, good luck doing anything else ever for the rest of the game.
So that's how it was almost exactly in Arkham 2nd Edition. Like, you're cursed unless you get a way to become uncursed or become blessed, which just turns you back into normal.
I think
Yeah.
you can roll on a reckoning as well.
For curse, yeah, you roll in reckoning, and then like a 5 and 6, you get rid of it
Yeah.
or something like
For
that.
second
think just
edition, there
6,
wasn't
but
yeah.
there wasn't much of any
What was it?
way.
I think just on the 6 in
Oh.
Eldritch, but I could be wrong. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
And then you would get, if you got cursed, you would flip the card over. Eldritch had a lot more double-sided cards. The only double-sided cards on this one are the dark backs.
Yeah.
So
So far.
So far.
so far,
Yeah.
but it does help with like keeping down costs, I guess, or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to not print double-sided
Yeah.
cards.
Coming to an
but
expansion near you.
the biggest thing with that change in this one, when you become cursed, and it technically this kind of applies for blessed as well. Like it's easier to lose blessed.
Oh,
Uh,
not at all.
it's all harder to lose blessed.
Much
It's-
harder to lose
it's-
blessed.
Yeah, you're almost never going to lose blessed, whereas in
Yeah.
Eldritch, eventually you will.
Becoming blessed makes you more likely to keep blessed. Becoming cursed makes you less likely to keep cursed, because basically the big thing is whichever one they like. If you're blessed and you ever don't succeed at a roll, you lose blessed. But
Yeah.
blessed makes it more likely for you to succeed at rolls. Cursed, if you are cursed and you ever succeed, then you lose cursed. So yeah, you're only succeeding on 6s now, but the first time you roll a 6 on a check,
Yeah.
you lose your cursed status.
And then obviously, if you are blessed and you become cursed, you just lose blessed. And the same with cursed, and you
And
become
that's been
blessed. Yeah,
The
But
same
that's been
across
the
the
same.
board.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right. But
that is still the same.
But it's misbalanced in that you're much more likely to get that 6 on a cursed roll after 3 or 4 rolls than to ever only roll less than 4 on a blessed roll in 3 or 4 rolls.
Yes, no, I'd agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely once you have blessed, unless you have a card effect that really makes you lose it.
Like getting a curse.
Yeah. Well, there's like one. Yeah, there's a headline that is if you have one or more clues, you become cursed. And so that was how I lost the blessing once.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, having blessing, it's hard for you to lose it.
I think in our games where we had blessings, I don't remember anyone losing them.
Now, due to dice rolls, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's-
never do
there's
the
so
dice
ma-
rolls.
There's so many ways to keep on rolling.
Mm-hmm. Well, the end of our last one where we had when we were fighting Cthulhu, 3 out of the 4 people ended up being blessed because the game just went long enough that people found the blessed conditions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
You get those from the encounter cards, which we haven't really talked anything about.
Nope.
We have not.
They're
the-
decks of 9,
8.
8 cards, and then you get the clues, which you will shuffle into the top there that have specific
Yep.
scenarios. We never read our own cards; we always have someone else, so we can't see if
Yeah.
it's specifically a clue one or
Yeah.
not.
But it's still the same format as the Eldritch
And Arkham,
and Arkham, where it's
Yep.
you have 3 different spaces in your neighborhood. You read whichever one's relevant to you, and it makes sense thematically. If you're at Arkham Asylum, you're dealing with therapists and shit. Whereas if you're at a merchant, you're just buying from this old dude and shit like that.
And you won't know if you're playing properly where you have your neighbor read it to you, you won't know necessarily that your card is going to give you a clue or not.
Yeah.
But if you fail it, it gets shuffled back in, so you do know that you failed a clue.
Yeah.
and sometimes there's
And sometimes they'll just give you like the cards aren't always dealt the same or built the same. Some
No.
will be like you have to succeed at this in order to get anything. Others will be like, oh, you get this, but then you have to succeed not to take damage or
or to get a bonus,
or to get a
something like
bonus
that.
or something like that.
And they're not nearly as punishing as Eldritch was.
Yes.
A lot- like-
Nor Arkham Second.
Yeah.
It
Although
was-
I feel like the ones that really started getting punishing once you got to the expansions, like specifically once poison became a thing.
Oh, God.
Though every time you got one of those encounters, you're like motherfucking snake. To be like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, why did it have to be snakes?
Yeah, every single time.
Yeah.
One thing that this does different from anything I've seen in anything is the anomalies.
Okay.
So when you hit Doom, that starts an anomaly there. You have to get rid of all the Doom, and that begins that separate deck of encounters.
Yes.
The
So
anomaly
not
encounters.
all the scenarios having anomalies, but those that do, you have this giant black circle that you put in the center of the
Black Lightning.
yeah. Yes. In the center
Purple
of the
lightning?
neighborhood, it's like purple. Yeah.
Yeah.
You put it right in the center. It covers over all the clues and the name of the thing. So technically, you're not dealing with Southside anymore. You're dealing with this anomaly, which depends on whichever scenario you are.
Right.
There's like 3 different ones.
Yep.
Some dealt with time. Some dealt with
Fractured reality,
and then
lost in
night-
time,
yeah.
or something. I don't remember what they all are.
and
A
those
lot of water.
yeah. And so you
Oh,
can't
yeah,
you
so
can't
much water.
so much water. You can't get back to those clues until you clear the anomaly, which is getting rid of all the doom on that. Not just that's like the entire neighborhood.
And we had mentioned earlier when you get Doom on any of those anomaly spaces, they go right onto the scenario
Mhm.
sheet. So those definitely become priorities because
Yeah.
that's ticking that game clock.
Yeah, that is. So there isn't a Doom tracker like in Eldritch or some of those other ones. It's you putting Doom on the scenario sheet.
It's much more like LCG in that
Yeah.
regard.
yes.
Which they've brought over quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Arkham Second Edition was more about going through all those portals into other worlds, and each one of those had their own deck. And
It's not an
had the same
encounter.
thing too. Yeah.
Which is what I like about it, actually, because you can just get rid of all the doom and the portal or the anomaly goes away without having to necessarily encounter it. Whereas in Eldritch or Arkham, you had to encounter the portal, succeed at the test, go through the portal, succeed at the test to close it, and then it was this. Whereas this, you could completely avoid it.
Hope you got that test right, or you got to go through it again.
Mm-hmm. But what's nice is that if you don't have any doom in your like they didn't make it to where it was only on the doom on your space. So if you had 0 doom on your space and you're doing one of those anomaly encounters, it's any of the neighborhood. So you can, no matter what, you can still make progress on it.
Yeah,
because that would have been really annoying if you're like, oh well, Wes and I were in the same space, and because Wes got rid of the doom, my turn's wasted.
Yeah.
So, but now you can actually have it where if Wes got rid of it, then the anomaly's gone, then I can do a normal encounter again.
And it's not as brutal as count up all of the doom in the neighborhood and then take the test.
Yeah.
That would be real sucky. I don't think we ever did any that were like a 3+ in any of the games I played. Be smart.
I have.
Yeah. I haven't read any of those cards. I assume they're bad. Or at least they get
Well, it would never
weirder.
be 3+, but the 3 ones get
It's hard.
Yeah.
Anomalies. There are epic monsters in this game. And elite monsters.
I like the monster spawn deck a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an
It's
Eldritch,
one of the only 2-sided cards.
yes.
Yeah.
So instead of doing, I don't know what it was in Arkham Second Edition.
It was all the square tiles.
Okay,
that were
like
similar.
an Eldritch.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was just a big bag, and if you had all the expansions, you just drew whatever nightmare came out.
That's what Eldritch was the same thing.
Yep.
This one is tailored to specific whatever your scenario is.
Yes.
So it's like deep ones if you were dealing with the Cthulhu one, whereas if it's the cultist one, there's a shitload of cultists.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
so you,
Mordhealth has ghouls and so forth.
so you build the monster deck,
Mhm.
and then as you're playing, whenever you would spawn a monster, you just pull the bottom card off the deck.
It's
and any monsters you kill go back to the top of the deck.
Yep.
So the deck just cycles.
And it tells you exactly where to spawn them, what they're doing. There's 3 different types. Like we said, there was the hunter, which is pursuing a person, and it's normally it'll be like the highest will or
There's
lowest.
a lot of if then.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be patrol that just goes towards the most doom or the most or the unstable space, and then there's lurkers that just sit there and do shit.
Yep. Dump.
Yep.
Big doom tokens all over their neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and those are just the base monsters. Then, you had started, Zach, to talk about the elite and epic monsters.
So the elite ones can there are a couple bigger monsters in that same deck that have more health, and that's the amount of players. So if you're doing solo, then it's just 1 more health. Oh, it has 3 instead of 2, whatever.
It's elite 2. It gets 2 more health.
Yeah, but if it's a elite 1 and you're playing 6 players, now it's 8 health instead of 2, which is definitely
Crazy.
a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah, which in the last game we played on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
Megan and I, even though I wasn't really a bruiser character, between the two of us, we took out 2, one epic that was one that was a +1 and one that was a +2.
Uh-huh.
And then we had to fight Cthulhu on top of it.
Yeah.
And it
'Cause then,
rapidly failed.
And the archive deck, which is it's
The story deck.
the story deck thing, and there are different. It's not the story doesn't happen the same way.
Your legacy
Yeah.
deck style.
Your Mythos deck.
Yeah.
But depending on the scenario, it can add different things to it. And I'm not just talking about different story things. It can be it can throw cards into the neighborhood decks. It can cause you to do you have to go to certain places to look at things and stuff like that. But occasionally you'll have elite monsters in there, which are just the regular card size, but because everything is mini card, you're look at this giant ass monster I'm putting down on because it takes up the entire neighborhood. Neighborhood space.
Servitor of Rylith, I think. Is one of those.
Yogg-Sothoth or
Yeah, they have both.
oh, I thought that was Rylith Guardian.
There's servitors of all
The Rylith
3.
Guardian was just a regular
that's right.
creature.
Yeah, that's right.
The Servitor was the pre-Cthulhu
Yep.
fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we were
Servitor
gonna
of
get.
Riloth is the Cthulhu one, and then there's a Servitor of something else
Yogg-Sothoth.
for Yogg-Sothoth.
That's the usually when those come out, it's bad news bears.
yes.
The story's
That-
taking a turn.
Yeah.
That means last chance, kill this, and you don't have to face the Elder one.
Yeah.
And if you don't, well, then you're going to have to face them both, and you've already lost. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then a lot of those have massive on them, which is just a keyword that's just they engage everybody that's in them because normally when you engage a monster, it latches onto you. So you could be like, oh, I'm going to attach him, have it latch onto me, and then Wes will attach it, latch onto him. Wes will take the damage. If it's massive, it'll just attack all of us.
Right. Which is the only exception to the if you are in the same space as a monster, it engages with you for whatever reason.
Exactly.
If it's engaged with another person, then it does not.
Yeah.
All the investigators get their own starter deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's new. And Eldritch, it was you had a giant thing and it was like, hey, you start with this or whatever. You had to fish it out. Here it's just there's a starter deck that you're like,
4
you get
items
these
or so.
and you
3.
get to choose.
It's like you get this one thing and then you get one of these 2 things. Which
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
that the way it was in the LCG? I could have sworn I've seen that before.
No, in LCG.
LCG was
Mansions,
deck.
maybe?
Well, so LCG does have sort of like that where your starting deck, you build your 30 card deck or whatever, but you also get one special item that's unique to your character, one special weakness that's unique to your character, and then
Yeah.
one generic weakness out of the generic weaknesses.
And Mansions didn't do that? You did
No.
where you didn't start with an ability and then get a...
You start
yeah,
with
you did.
You start with items.
Yeah, you start
Yeah,
with items.
'cause,
You just hand them out to people. Certain characters start with their own thing.
Yeah, because like Jenny always gets her twin 45s, or like the hobo guy gets his guitar or his dog.
Yeah, but instead
But it's
of
like,
instead of an
it's still
ability,
this or that.
no.
Really?
On Mansions, it's just you start with this, if at all, and then there are items that you can hand out.
Hmm.
So
And Arkham Second Edition, the only thing that came close is everyone got a personal quest
right,
that was in a later expansion.
that was an expansion in Eldritch too. I think near the
Okay.
end.
I don't know. It seemed that you get this and then one of these 2 seemed super familiar to me. Something else, maybe something
It
else.
must be
Fantasy
something
Flight
else
that's
entirely.
not.
Yeah. But that's nice because it gives you some customization.
Each person
especially-
has 2 builds,
yeah,
basically.
you have 2 builds, and on the back of your card, it even tells you the style of character you're playing. If it's a seeker, to go
And
like
that's
go
totally new to me.
Get, yeah.
And I think
that's-
that came from LCG.
That came from LCG,
yeah.
yeah.
But,
yes.
In this style of game.
Yeah, so
Right.
and because we know that it's like getting clues is super important, warding super important. It's just like we need mystics, we need bruisers, we need guardians, we need seekers, that sort of thing. And so
Right, which is nice. So then if like 3 people want to play mystics and one of them has secondary seeker, one of them has secondary rogue, one of them has secondary guardian, well, then you can take your secondary ability so that we don't have a guardian, but I'll take my fight spell.
yeah,
So now I'm a mystic, but I can fill in that guardian role. Or
Exactly.
somebody else could be still a mystic, but fill in that
Yeah.
seeker role.
and you get to choose that at the end too, so you can see like
What
one of the things we saw was Paul wanted to be Jenny Barnes. He's like, do I want to do the 45s or the whatever
dress,
the other one, the dress to the
like, fancy
9s?
dress. Yeah.
And then we dealt the display, and there was the Thompson 45. And he's like, oh, I'm just gonna go buy that,
Right.
and then so I don't have to worry about getting the weapons then.
It's a lot easier to tell in this what type of character you are
Yeah.
without looking at
Yes.
all the stats or like having to know what the stats mean.
Mhm.
You can just read those nice little
Yeah.
blurbs.
I feel like I haven't played nearly all the characters in all of my plays. Like I've been 5 characters because of a couple people dying, but I feel like there's only been like 1, maybe 2 of of those 5 that legitimately had 2 options that would be useful. Like most of them, it seemed like there's really one that you're going to be most of the time you play it. Like the other one might be like Jenny Barnes is one of the few where I felt like her dress to the 9s or her twin guns, like both of those could be useful one way or the other. But like the motorcycle cop guy, like I felt like taking his rifle was like a no-brainer. I think the rifle was the choice.
Doesn't he get the motorcycle though?
The motorcycle he always gets.
Oh, that's the one he always gets. Okay. Yeah, then
Yeah.
I don't remember what his other choice was.
And
yeah.
then he has a choice of the rifle or I don't even remember what the other choice was.
Yeah.
Or like the motorcycle mechanic woman who's one of the new characters. She always gets I don't
Gabrielle, the bike. She always gets the bike, but you can choose to get the wrench or something else.
the wrench or like a tarot card.
yeah,
And that one, like the
wrench-
tarot card doesn't ever seem useful. Like it seems like anytime you play or you're going to want the wrench and you're going to want to use the motorcycle and the wrench to run around and kind of help keep monsters under control.
Unless you've got Tommy Calhoun or whoever who starts with the Tommy gun, and then maybe you don't need that super guardian thing. I mean, that's
yeah. Basically, if everybody else decided to be Bruiser, and you're just like, oh well, I don't want to just continue to do that too. Let me.
Yeah, but then
It's-
I feel like you wouldn't be her.
Yeah,
Like if everybody else chose Bruiser, I don't feel like it'd be a good choice to pick her.
Depends on how you deal characters.
right.
Yeah.
It might have been a random choice. I mean, you could just deal them out.
Well, yeah. Oh God, more randomness.
So one thing we haven't touched on is monster remnants.
oh yeah,
That's a new thing.
That's a new thing too. when you clear off 2 of the when you ward 2 doom away, or you kill certain monsters, you get remnants.
It's just a new resource.
We
item.
can use
It's
them.
a new currency.
It's a new
basically.
currency because you can use them. There are certain areas that are like, spend these things to get other things, but you can also use it because spells changed in this one too.
Yes.
Normal now it's you have to take like you just straight up take sanity whenever you use it, but then it automatically it doesn't automatically succeed, but you don't have to you don't do a bad cast of it.
Your sanity damage isn't based off of how well you roll.
Exactly.
You just take it.
Yeah, like an Eldritch or something who's always like, do this spell and then look in the back and see if you actually did it or not.
For 1 or 2 successes, you succeeded, but take 2 sanity damage or whatever.
Yeah, they simplified that, but you can use those remnants as a 1-for-1 to not take sanity damage. And you can trade. Yeah, you can burn it, and so you can trade those away because trading's an action. You could give it to the spell guy, and now he can do spells left and right without having to worry about taking sanity.
Yeah, it's an interesting new level that they've added.
Yeah,
on.
I like it.
I would agree with that too.
Evade is slightly different.
Yeah.
I'm always used to evade being part of a movement action. And if you move and you have a monster, you have to make an evade roll. Evade is now an action that you do that if you succeed, you just get another free action. So that's a little bit different on how they've done that.
Well, if you fully succeed too.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to succeed on every single monster.
Yes.
Or rather, get as many successes as there are monsters in your space.
Because I feel like in Eldritch, it's been a while. Was there even I don't think there was an evade.
I don't think there was.
It was just, you just can't do an encounter if you're there.
Yeah.
So you just go somewhere else.
Yeah. But that's a thing from LCG where if you're engaged with a monster, you have to either fight it or evade it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. It's very personal. It's a lot more personal.
Yeah.
In this, so
the monster stuff in this takes a lot from LCG and their engaged rules.
Yep.
And that's why it's important that you can evade multiple monsters because you only get each action once per turn.
Yep.
So if you have 3 monsters on you, you can attack one of them, but then you're stuck with the other 2.
Unless you then evade them.
Right, which gives you the evade option to evade multiple monsters, disengage them, and then a free action to run away.
Yeah, because if you don't run away, then when they ready it back up, they're going to go, like we said, they'll just attach right back onto you.
Yeah, there's no combat to roll their die versus your
exactly.
die, which is how second edition works.
They don't roll die. They just have and you know what it is. You know what the monsters can do. They can do 1 damage or a damage and a sanity or 2 sanity or whatever.
Yep.
They remove the randomness of that.
Yeah.
It's not because I think in Eldritch it was you're rolling die.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the last things are clues that we've chit-chatted a little bit about, but they're not just get rerolls or whatever anymore. They're strictly story movement elements in this. You
can still spend them for rerolls.
You
would don't ever do that.
Don't ever do that.
Don't ever do that.
Unless you, for whatever reason, have 20 that you don't need.
Yeah, which isn't going to happen. But clues are much more vital resources in this.
And not just that too, but they're harder to use too because before
there's a new action.
Yeah, well, there's a new action research because in Eldritch it was just I got a clue, and then at the beginning of the mythos it could be right, everybody spend clues to do it. Here it's you have to actually spend your research action, which is observation, so you have to have good observation or give it to someone who does.
Yep.
To then move it onto the scenario sheet, and then some things will have you use it from the scenario sheet. Others will just be you just need it on there and stuff like that.
Or others need an action to do it.
Yeah, it's a very multi-step process. Whereas in Eldritch, you were guaranteed to encounter the clue. Once you got it, you could send it to the scenario sheet or do whatever you needed with it right away. And it's a 1 in 3 shot of encountering the clue. And then once you got it, you still have to observe it or do the research, which you may not be able to do very well. So it takes several steps of actually researching.
And there are obviously ways to do better at that because if you brought 3 people over to have 3 encounters at that one location, you're going to find it.
Right.
And then if you give it to someone who has high observation or has items that help with research, it's going to be easier for them to do. And there are certain characters that are better at doing research than others. So.
And what I find really interesting about the clues is that they come out of the Mythos bag. So they're turn limited in the same sense that the Doom is.
Yes.
You're not going to get your clues all out at the beginning before you have any Doom. They're still coming out slowly so you have to play so many turns before you even have a chance to find enough clues, which I think was kind of really brilliant.
Make sure when you're setting up the game, you actually spawn the clues that you're supposed to.
Yes. And that you do an extra Doom.
And you do an extra Doom.
It's the only thing that it doesn't explain on the scenario setup is it does all of the scenario things, and then you spawn 3 clues and 1 doom.
Yeah.
And that's only explained in the rulebook. So
I
if
see.
you
Yeah.
did not read the rulebook and just started from the scenario sheet, you would not know that.
Yeah. The scenario sheet is like, here's what's unique about this one.
But you still have to go back
you
to
still
the
have
setup
to,
rules.
Yeah, you still have to do regular setup.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you
You get fucked
you
from
get
the start.
fucked because it takes so long to get into those
Yeah.
clues.
Yeah, because it could be playing with 3 players. It could be, twice around the table before any clues actually come out.
Right. Yeah. So
don't make that critical error.
exactly.
Never again.
Never again. And it's funny is I remember when we did it, it's like, why is this so hard?
It's like,
It's just like I remember we were just sitting around on the first turn and we're just like, what are we supposed to do? Right?
we need clues. Why are there no clues?
And then at the end we read the rule book and I was like, God damn it. This was I think my
I don't
second-
even think it was at the end. It was I told you about it because then the next day I played with my brother and
Oh,
I
that's
was
what-
like explaining the rules to him step by step and read that. I was like, oh, we didn't do that. And I texted you. I was like, we forgot to spawn clues.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that was brutal.
I think that's it for
I think that's
gameplay?
it. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah. I think we've touched on all of the pieces.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the only thing that we haven't touched on is just the fact. And I guess that would really go into review of just the fact that it's a Fantasy Flight game, so there aren't enough.
Yeah.
There isn't enough variety.
There's all of the things. And so you feel like you're doing so many different things, but then there's not enough depth for those things yet. So they put in all of the elements.
Mhm.
It's
So
very
they're-
broad,
Right.
currently very shallow.
All of the things are there and you
Yeah.
can do each of them, but not for very long.
Yeah, if all,
After
it,
they've released 40 expansions.
Yes.
no, it just takes the one. It takes the one because they have.
Yeah.
Well, the
Uh,
one starts it, but
well,
then they're going to still release 40
Well,
expansions.
not just that too, but so the first expansion of Eldritch Horror added 16 new cards to every location deck.
Cripes.
Yeah,
Because
so
it was
went,
8.
Yes,
start
so
with
it
as
went from 8 to 24, and then it also went from 4 clues or 4 different investigations you had to do to 6. So because you had to do 3, and it just added more. It added more variety, and then also add in one, an extra great old one, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that one is the really one that was like, well, now you can play it and feel fine. Like I remember we went through the Black Cave once. Like there were a
Yeah.
lot of people that just ended up having to go to the Black Cave, and so like by the time we were done, we were like, we've already seen all of these cards, and then
And there was times I was playing
the
with you
graveyard?
that I
Oh
was
my
just
God.
started reading and
And
you were
it-
already handing off stuff. Because like, I know what I need to do. Let's,
exactly, which it's
I know this card gets me a bless. Come on.
yeah. There's Cave trying to tip my guy over, take my bless. All right,
Yeah.
And then I know, especially because you like to play the Mystic characters a lot, that you're just like fucking Black Cave.
Oh yeah, you go to the Black Cave to get your spells, or to if you don't have that one, then
There's one or two
at
others.
Miskatonic,
Yeah.
and there's one somewhere else. But yeah, so every time I just like I need to go get spells. All right, you're 2 words into the thing. I know I'm rolling a wisdom check, and I'm
Yeah.
actually not going to get a spell, so I'm going to be here another turn. Sorry, guys.
And that's just. It seems like
It's all Fantasy Flight games.
it's fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have enough. It's like the minimum requirements of to play a game versus like recommended settings. Like, yeah, you could technically do it, but it's gonna be amazing once you actually get the variety in there.
Right on. On to final thoughts then. I'm going to go ahead and get mine out of the way.
Yep.
So I can go back to spacing out.
Yep.
I do not like Arkham Horror.
Yeah.
I continue to not like anything in the entire Arkham Files line that isn't Mansions.
Mansions of Madness.
Mansions of Madness. I do somewhat like the LCG. I actually was able to enjoy the LCG. I thought it had that was one where the mechanics of the game and same thing with Mansions. In both cases, the mechanics of the game itself override my complete just lack of care for anything remotely eldritch, Lovecraftian. That's the word I was looking for. I talked about in initial thoughts about how, as I heard you guys talk about the game, and even here, like you guys are talking about it, and like you get excited about things, and like Wes said there at the end of that, like towards the end of this, like, oh, there's just so much in this game, and like so clearly there, like for people who like the game, there is. For me, it's just like, oh my God, this game is so fucking boring. Like I had such a hard time focusing on the games even when I was playing them, where it'd just be like, all right, it's my turn. Okay, cool. I do this. Like there'd be some turns where it was really crucial and we had to really talk through like, okay, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And then we could maybe actually accomplish all the things. But for me, that seemed like it came up so infrequently. It was almost always like, clearly, I'm going to do these two things. Clearly, you're going to do those two things. Clearly, you're going to do those two things. And clearly, you're going to do those two things. That's going to be the turn. And then we're going to draw some tokens and flip some cards and see how everything goes to shit. The dice rolls are better in this one. You know, I the way blessed and cursed works, it's not nearly as punishing. I feel like the dice aren't going to hold you back nearly as much. You know, you guys touched on them with closing anomalies, and that's way simpler in this one. You're not having to go into it and
two-part fucking encounters and shit like that.
Yeah. You know, they streamline a lot of that stuff away. But ultimately it's still, for me, just
it's still not a game for you.
Oh God, no.
This continues to be one of those games.
It continues to be one of those games that's just so not for me. You know, in Mansions, I feel I can get more into the character. I can treat it much more like an RPG, where like there's, you know, like the way
it's just, I mean, it's a lot more story driven.
Yeah. So in that case, the story can actually kind of take over for my lack of care for the theme.
Yeah. Well, it's Paul was asking about it on Slack, and you know, he was just like, they have the same things, and it's just like Mansions is story driven, Arkham is more gameplay driven, and Adrian's lack of interest in the gameplay means that he just does not like Arkham nearly as much.
Yes. You know, and whereas like for the LCG, like the gameplay, like I do really like deck building. It's a thing I like, and it's another one where I can feel a little bit more like
deck construction, really.
Deck construction,
Yeah.
yes.
Just saying, two separate things.
You're not wrong.
In fact, some would say I'm right.
Some would. I'll just say you're not wrong. But in both cases, and Paul and I, that kind of led into another little discussion where like he was like, oh, I don't think a good story would ever save a game that I don't like the mechanics.
Yeah.
And that's true for me, but in a game like Mansions where I don't hate the mechanics and it's got great story, that can override my lack of care for the theme itself, for the Lovecraftian stuff that I don't give a shit
and
about.
honestly, that was the least Lovecraft, like it's the least Lovecraftian of all of them, I feel.
Mansions?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, because you never feel like you're dealing with old ones and shit like that.
Yeah,
it's always just like
the
you're dealing with
stakes.
the stakes are a lot lower, but it makes it more personal. And then like the first one is just you're fighting a guy who has an axe and he's just chasing, not like the first edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mansions gets more detailed with what it can do.
It's not as overarching.
This is big swaths of like you're here at this place.
You're never gonna fight Cthulhu in Mansions.
No, then that's true. You'll fight some big crazy beasts sometimes.
But and most of the time you're just trying to survive.
Right.
I just feel like the stakes in the games are different.
Yeah.
So
you know, and so ultimately, it comes down to me for this one because I don't like the mechanics. I don't hate, but I don't care for. I almost actively dislike Lovecraft. Like I don't care for that theme. For me, you know, like I feel like that was one area where Smash Up got it right when they had their Cthulhu expansion be yet another or not another Cthulhu expansion. Obligatory, yeah. And that's how it, and I love zombies, and I know other people, Zach, he feels that way about zombies. It's just one of those
especially
things.
Feel that way about fantasy, so.
Yeah. Where it just feels like, okay, we're doing this because it's a thing that isn't for me. Another good example is people who get excited about Doctor Who. Doctor Who's another theme thing. Like everybody new series, who's the new Doctor? I don't fucking care. I don't like Arkham. My initial thought was correct, and then I let people's enthusiasm for it cloud me. My first game of it went really well.
People's obviously biased into the
biased enthusiasm, and then even my initial gameplay experience of it did. It should have warned me, but it didn't, because I actually had fun. I had fun when it was me and Wes and Mike Jones.
Well, and
it
also
should have warned me
because of how shitty we were doing.
Exactly, in the exact same scenario, exact same number of players,
on the exact same table.
And I should have known that right there should have been like, you know, I'm not gonna like this game on the whole.
Yeah,
because that game is gonna happen to me probably more often than this game is gonna happen to me.
Which is what happened to you the next game you played,
and the next game, and
Well, this most recent one was actually fairly close.
Yeah,
but
with this game having the most cohesive theme and story to any of them, there's no chance.
Correct.
It wasn't going to change your mind. It's the most polished version of it, but it's for you. It's
can
still a
polish
polished turd,
but it's
yeah.
still a turd. No, and I don't think it's a turd. I don't think it's a bad game. It's
Uh-huh.
just this game is so clearly, in so many ways, from theme to mechanics down the line, none of it was ever meant to appease my type of gamer.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. Zach, would you like to go next? I don't know who you guys.
I mean,
choose amongst yourselves.
I feel like, honestly, I feel like maybe all of us could just go at once.
Yeah, that's really. I don't think any of us have
All
any.
three of you own the game with the deluxe hardcover rules.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
says enough.
Yeah, we weren't biased at all.
Now we're just gonna have a 3-part conversation
Yeah.
about how much we love the game.
Yes. Well, I know. Yeah,
I have some serious qualms. I mean,
that's fine. Go for him.
Go West, go.
Go.
I mean, it's a great game. I'm gonna
Yeah.
start off with that. I really
Yes.
love this game, but I think what Adrian said, like I said, that there's so many things, and I don't think it's that it's so many. Oh yeah, all these things. It's like there's all of the things. I mean, it's the same thing in Eldritch. Always too many choices, too many things to do, too many tokens to pick up. Not that that's bad, but there's all of them are here, but none of them are fleshed out yet, which is typical for Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
That's my first complaint.
Which I Jeff and I completely agree
It's
with.
the first one
Yep.
of
It's-
many.
Yeah.
They've done a really good job of streamlining it and taking new mechanics and adding those in, which I appreciate. But it's almost watered it down also.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as punishing as Eldritch or as LCG
Or is the original.
or as the original.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Unless you get,
Arkham Light.
yeah, I could see that. I feel like as long as you can keep on top of it, it is not nearly as punishing. But it is. I feel
The previous ones seem to have a lot less control over how bad things were
Yes.
getting,
Mm-hmm.
where this one is more manageable.
I feel like if you can manage it, like I would definitely agree. It's like on the games where I've won, like when we played with Paul, it was just like, man, this was a lot easier than I was expecting it like to be.
Even in that first 2-player game we
yeah.
played.
Yeah,
But
but
but all the pieces fell into place. We got
Exactly.
the right items on the
Yeah.
right people that just made it.
yep, and it was just like, oh, this epic monster comes. Oh, I'm just gonna go kill it real quick, and then it's go back to just doing what I was gonna do anyway. But when like the game that Paul and Andrew we had, there was literally at the end of the first round we had an anomaly already out that we couldn't go deal with, and then we got like another gate burst soon after that landed onto it, and like we had a lot of bad luck, and it can be hard to mitigate that.
Yeah, no, I still agree. I think it like I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I don't think it's. I think it is not as like spiky as the other ones. It's a lot more fluid, and it's gradual in terms of its increase or decrease.
I
in
can see that.
difficulty, and so if you can keep up with it, that's fine. Whereas with Eldritch, like you get that one Mythos thing that's literally the start. I remember one of our first games, the first Mythos card drew. It was just everybody has to get rid of one of every type of card.
item.
So everybody immediately lost everything that they started with. And it was just like,
And that started the conversation of difficulty level in them, and you can actually like
Exactly.
do difficulty decks.
yeah.
which is not
Or there was
Just the
one,
way you're
or
supposed
there
to.
is one where it's just like everybody has to spend this amount of clues, or you shuffle an investigation back into the deck, so you basically lose 1/3 of your progress in the game. There's nothing in that's in this game.
Yes, and I like that there's not those really stupid cards.
Yeah.
But there's also all of each individual elements are easier.
Yeah,
Blesses are better. Curses are
I
better.
would definitely agree with
Uh,
that. Yeah,
Encounters are easier. You know, monsters are harder.
monsters are harder because they're more active, but they are more. Maybe static's not the right word, but it's just it's more constant. You know exactly what they're doing.
Portals are easier.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going into the portals and so every single, for the most part, each individual element of Eldritch or LCG or Arkham Original Second Edition
Mm-hmm.
has been simplified, but also made easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may or may not take away from the game. Like in Eldritch, you had to be lucky to win. The game was hard.
Mm-hmm.
You had to get that luck and the good draws as well as the good strategy in order to pull out a win. In this, I feel like you have to get that luck and the bad strategy just to lose.
I could see that. I felt like there was definitely a bigger spike in difficulty once you added in the expansions of Eldritch.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping is
Yeah.
that things are not only going to get more variety, which it needs desperately, but
Yeah.
that it's also going to maybe add in some more difficult cards
Mhm.
also.
Difficulty levels were one of the things that got added in Arkham 2nd Edition as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There was like very easy to very hard.
Yeah, which
and-
you can't do that in this.
No.
So, and in Eldritch, like you were saying, the Mythos deck, you can build that to make it harder or easier, or even have it ramp up from easy to hard. Whereas you can't really do that here.
It's sort of just the scenario.
It's just
kind of
the
makes
scenario-
things
yeah,
harder.
Right.
Yeah, the scenario and the people you have, and the way you draw the bag, those tokens, because
It could be gate burst
because
back to back with
it
another
could be gate
burst.
burst. You shuffle it, next person gets another gate burst, and because it's one, it's you can have moments of, oh man, shit is fucked, or if a dark pack comes out and then you have to resolve it, then it's like, oh, we have to resolve 6 of those Mythos things, or like there are definitely little moments of shit can hit the fan, but it's not nearly. It's more manageable in this one than it is.
And that's actually another complaint that I have, is that it's so swingy at different player counts. Like at 1 or 2 player counts, it's a very slow burn.
Yeah.
And it's very much easier to keep a grasp on things because not as many things are happening at once.
Yeah.
Whereas with 4, 5, 6 players, it's bam, 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 and you're already fucked.
I think that's why I
You
wouldn't.
get behind a lot easier.
I wouldn't play it with more than 4.
Yeah.
Because when Andrew and Mike Jones and Adrian were coming to play, to join Yumi and Paul, it was like, well, we could do a group of a thing of 6, or we could do 2 games of 3.
Yeah.
And I would much rather play this game at 2, 3, or 4 than, and I probably would. I would be hard pressed to get 5 or 6 players, but that was the same with Eldritch for me too. Was like I wouldn't do more.
But it scaled better in the difficulty. Like it was, because it was per 2, so it was like 3 and 5 was bad,
yes.
but 4 and 6 was good.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well, it was time length. I felt like the game took too long with more than 4
yes,
players.
but it didn't get harder.
Not necessarily unless you were at the odd difficulty. Yeah.
Right.
In all the player counts that I've played, 2, 3, 4, and 1.
Yeah.
2 to 4 is good, and I didn't really notice a big swing difference in it in 2 to 4. Like 2 players still played awesome, 3 player played awesome, 4 player played awesome.
I agree. Like 3 to 4 players is probably the sweet spot.
Yes.
But like when I played solo, I like stomped all over.
Well, you also you definitely had the right character in the right scenario. So
Yes.
that's definitely not to, just because you had one that was the monsters didn't matter that much, and you had a character that could just
True.
If
I had played Mordhoth or Yog-Sothoth instead of Cthulhu,
It
I
could
may
have
have
been-
had much harder time.
Yes.
But I think that the fact that the game plays so much slower
No, it definitely does. Yes.
gives you, because I have, however many actions before that gate burst is coming out again.
Uh-huh.
I can go focus on other things
Yes.
and then come back here later.
Yeah.
Whereas if that's going to come out right away, technically it's the same action economy where you're spreading those actions over 4 people instead of 1 person.
Exactly,
or
yeah.
whatever.
No, you're definitely not wrong there. That it can be worse with more people if you aren't on top of it at all times.
Also, the playing time, quite accurate. on
Yeah.
the
Oh,
back
yeah,
of the box.
definitely.
2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours.
Longest game I think has been just over 3 hours for me, but most of them have been the 2 to 3.
You're in for the long haul on
Yep.
this one.
Mm-hmm.
But no 90-minute bullshit. You're probably not getting the game in 90 minutes.
No.
No.
Unless it goes really bad.
Unless it
Yeah.
goes really bad.
I think we
Yeah.
did have one go really bad once.
Yes.
But for all my criticism, I've played it more than any of you guys,
Yeah.
and I'm going to continue to play
Yeah.
it even solo just for the fun of it.
Would
So, I
you
mean,
how okay, so I think we're all in agreement that this and Mansions, two completely different, or not completely different games, but different enough that it doesn't matter
Yeah.
to compare them in that regard. But like this and Eldritch,
Mhm.
would you still play Eldritch? Because I know I've seen some people go back to Eldritch.
I might still play Eldritch as a once or twice a year sort of, oh, hey, let's bust out the bigger brother of Arkham
Right.
and play the harder cards that,
with all the expansions.
right. With all we might do that once and then be like, no, never again.
Yeah.
But having played Arkham so many times, Arkham 3rd Edition so many times, I feel like it's different enough. I do want to still play Eldritch at least one more time to see how different.
See
enough.
the quality of life changes.
Yeah.
Like people that want to go back to World of Warcraft Classic. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Fucking nightmare
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Eldritch is better now because of the expansions. this will be better
Yeah.
Yeah,
when it
that's-
gets the
yeah.
pieces, and
Yeah.
both of them still blow second edition out of the water.
Definitely.
So it's like Civilization, where every time the new civ comes out, people are like, "Oh, it's not as good as the old one." Well, you're comparing it to the old one with all of the
content. Yeah.
expansions.
Yeah.
Yes. They've continued to streamline it. And I would once they add one or two more expansions for Arkham, it definitely would be, why do I have Eldritch sort of thing. But
I think so.
And then I think the LCG still fits in no problem. You can still play the LCG and
Yeah.
Mansions of
LCG
Madness.
and
It's so
Mansions are
different.
different
It's
enough from a
it's a
gameplay.
campaign-driven sort
Mhm.
of thing. Yeah.
And I honestly, from all of the Arkham Files stuff, I think LCG is still my favorite, even how much I love Arkham
that's
3rd edition.
I
Probably
wanna
the
I
most
wouldn't
similar.
mind playing more LCG.
Yeah.
I
It's
definitely
tons
want
of
to play
fun.
more Mansions. But LCG, I really only played through the core base set for the review. I didn't get into any.
So
of
they
add-ons.
just released or about to release, I don't remember, you probably already know, but they're re-releasing the original set
Yep.
as a real set, not a tutorial set.
Yep.
Thank God.
Yeah. Awesome. That wraps up the review then. We can jump over to a little bit of listener feedback here, where we have our normal BGG post up, and we've got
Just the one.
just the one. Fucking Chad.
Yep.
All right, let's tell him how wrong he is.
Yeah. No, he's
No,
not.
wait.
No.
So,
Or right.
so Chad is Canadian.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they pronounce it Canadian.
Canadian. The lead singer of Nickelback is Chad Kroger and is Canadian.
Have you ever seen Chad and Chad in the same place at the
Are
same
we
time?
not sure that Chad from Of Dice and Men is not also Chad Kroger of Nickelback fame?
Uh,
I mean,
I
we
mean,
don't
how
know
much
this.
how much do you like Chad of Dyson Men? Because then that'll tell us whether or not it's Nickelback.
I don't like him
Okay, then he's
right
not
now
Nickelback.
because he let us down in this specific BGG.
Then he's
thread.
not Nickelback.
Let us down or let you down?
Well, maybe I like Nickelback. I don't. But just because I like a band doesn't mean I necessarily like the lead singer. Maybe
Zach-
I also hate Chad Kroger.
Right there, you need to splice in Adrian saying he likes Nickelback.
Oh yeah. yeah. Well,
I don't like Nickelback. I like Nickelback.
He is editing this one, unfortunately.
Anyway, on to the feedback over there.
All right. This is from Matthew. I enjoyed the one game I played of it, Echoes of the Deep. Nearly won the game. That's the
That's-
Cthulhu one.
I do have to say, of the Cthulhu scenario, from all the other Cthulhu scenarios, this was the one that was most manageable.
Yes.
It seems like all the other ones are like very hard,
Yeah.
and you don't even get
Yeah,
close.
I think Veil of Twilight is actually the hardest of all of them.
yeah,
yeah.
like scenario difficulty wise, they were all pretty good.
Yeah. Feels like it improves on Eldritch Horror in some regards. Shuffling, all that mid-game shuffling. No, seriously, you shuffle more per round in Eldritch Horror than you have to every 7 pulls from the bag. There's 3 cases of mandatory shuffling per bag, 2 clues and 1 gate burst. Maybe more if you add another gate burst to the bag.
Because there is 2 gate burst tokens.
Because there are certain ones where you're like, you're super fucked, so we're also going to be adding more Doom and more gate burst.
Yeah, if you
Because
start doing
it'll-
real bad, then it just gets even more worse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think I've only had to add
I've
the
had-
extra tokens once.
I've had to do it once, and it was.
I think it was that real bad game of Veil of Twilight where we started out wrong.
Yeah.
Ah,
Plus, whenever you have to search a deck, but deck searching and its resulting reshuffles, it's far less than it is seen in Eldritch Horror, as a lot of the cards that you get in Eldritch Horror are keyworded, which more often than not incur a reshuffle. That's a lot of the mini cards have
Yeah.
those sort of things.
Yeah, I
look
think
for an
they-
item. Look for a unique
Yeah.
item.
They did a really good job of that in the cards and the rule book of segregating literally everything
Yeah.
into a keyword.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. And if you need to discard a double-sided card, raw state, that's another reshuffle. It's to the point that I'm using an app to draw assets, spells, and uniques, keeping the cards sorted by name in 2 or more stacks. Also, each investigator now has their own stack of starting equipment to choose from, as well as a more obvious indicator to their role.
Yes.
While Eldritch had some stuff in its favor, easier to make the mythos less punishing or more punishing if you want it, static board leads to less faffing about in regards to setup versus the third's modular board. I feel like this one's still a lot easier to set up than that one, than Eldritch. Even with the
Unless you're playing with a sideboard.
I think I'm just thinking because now whenever I play, it'd be a bunch of expansion shit. So
It's just that there's more, right? Because
Yeah.
you've got all of those decks to get out, but there's not
Yeah.
much setup involved. It's just getting it out and putting it
Yeah.
on the table.
All of that still pales in comparison to the second edition.
Oh, I'm
setup.
sure.
Oh,
it's-
yes. It took us like an hour and a half just to set up that game.
I'm
Yep.
sure.
The one time I played it.
Yep. Of course, neither game gives you enough dice to roll without bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Long story short, I enjoyed what Arkham 3rd and Eldritch bring to the table, even with their own weaknesses. I just hope that Arkham 3rd doesn't get too bloated, which
It probably
It
will.
will,
Yeah.
because Arkham 2 got super bloated.
Yes.
And then they're like,
The
Eldritch,
most-
the more streamlined one. And then near the end, it got super bloated as well. And so, like, well, I guess we just got to reboot it again.
yeah.
Though maybe not by design, as less copies of each spell is needed, with them going back to single-sided, and the starting equipment are now keyed to investigators instead of being thrown into decks. Special assets are never randomized, and each needs their own encounter or archive cards to come into play. Items, yeah, that can grow to be out of control. That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, it seems like it could be easier to keep it from getting more bloated, but
Just add double those amount of items.
yeah. But I don't want to be like, all right, Fantasy Flight, I dare you to make it too bloated, because they'll be like, oh, we can
Yeah.
fucking do that.
Yeah.
You want us
Yeah.
to take all of your money?
Oh, okay, all right, cool. Though I can see items, encounters, and monsters coming. Though in the latter case, it's just more monsters to pick up, to pick through at setup, which is nice too, because there's a big pile, but then when you set it up, you only have a smaller pile, so you don't have to worry about that. As well as the requisite of more scenarios, though I have a feeling that new titles will not be showing up in the base game scenarios, like how Gates of Arkham to Omens of the Pharaoh had their own adventure decks with their own gimmicks, like the Deep Ones Legion and Staged Mythos decks in At Sea, or the changing starting location of Pharaoh determines which stage you draw from. So if we get the Innsmouth expansion, expect Dagon and Hydra, suspecting, to use their own exclusive neighborhoods instead of Northside or Rivertown. I'm assuming that's AH2 stuff.
Yeah, there was an Innsmouth expansion that added a new board and new portals, but you had to like travel via train between them.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if they're ever going to have like detached scenario spots in this, where you have to go to like a dock or something and then pay a ticket to go to this other neighborhood or something like that.
It may not
but,
be that convoluted, but I can see them adding tiles
Yeah.
since they puzzle piece so
Because
well.
I mean, inevitably they have to add these other locations that are in Arkham, and how they'll do that, who knows? Maybe they'll release a 5-tile expansion that this is all Dunwich, this is all Innsmouth or something.
Right,
like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Big box,
Big bucks.
$60.
Yeah, unfortunately.
If there's one thing we know about Fantasy Flight, they certainly don't hate money. So I'm sure they will find all sorts of ways to add to this game and keep people.
And we will continue to
Yep.
be like, all
We will
right.
continue to buy it.
Luckily, I didn't get into the Elder Sign or the card game, like actually purchase them.
Yeah, my LCG game is not mine. Otherwise, I would be broke.
I stopped.
Yep.
I did like Elder Sign though.
The expansions helped it too.
Yeah.
So
CJ and I played.
But that was the dice game?
yes,
Elder Sign,
Oh, that was all right.
it's fine. It's just the expansions are like, oh, like some
as
of
is
them.
tradition.
It was like, oh, it makes it better now. So it made it more complex.
Fair enough.
Right on. That officially concludes the review stuff. If after listening to this, you want to get your own copy of Arkham Horror, it is widely available on the interwebs for anywhere from $50 to $65.
I think 65 is MSRP.
Yeah, which is what Walmart's charging,
Yeah.
apparently.
So one thing
Walmart. Don't buy things from Walmart.
that's interesting that I saw last time I was at Black and Red. They don't have any more of the deluxe rulebooks left, but they do have a new book of character short stories for all of the other characters.
Ooh.
So the deluxe book had a bunch of history of the game and short stories about the locations and the new characters. So now they've released a new books with new short stories for all the other stuff.
Cool.
Looks pretty cool too. I didn't check the price on it. Sorry.
More
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. Plenty of ways to throw money at Fantasy Flight. Yeah, that pretty much wraps everything up. If you want to get in touch with us in regards to this review, you can always send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can jump over to Board Game Geek Guild number 2731. That's the Mile High Game Guys Guild. And there is the episode thread over there where you can leave your thoughts about Arkham Horror, and we will address them in a later episode. You can always find us on Twitter. I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
And I'm Jeff_MHGG.
And Wes.
You can find me at the Mile High Dungeon Delvers podcast, MHDD_pod.
And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram /Mile High Game Guys, as well as show notes and links to Slack, Patreon, all of that stuff over on our website, milehighgameguys.com. Plenty of ways to get in touch with us. But hopefully you've reviewed this. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review episode.
You've reviewed this review.
With your ears.
you've reviewed this review by giving us feedback at all of those other contact points.
So
Don't
many.
act like you planned that.
But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this review. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday for our normal banter episode. Next Thursday, Wes and I will have our next episode of Mile High Dungeon Delvers out. And then next Friday, a week from the day you're hopefully listening to this, we will be reviewing City of Gears from our sponsors, Gray Fox Games. So, plenty of good content in the next week coming. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Ancient Jeff.
And I'm Wes.
Thanks for joining us, Wes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media, where we all
Bring something
to the table.
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.